they are changing my voice. So, last night there was a lot of brain hacking going on. Again, I'm not gay. They're trying to make it so I look like something I'm not, which is a gayish nerd, a kind of crypto Jewish person, what have you. And obviously, it's to their extreme disgrace. I see countless people every day on YouTube trying to look good, trying to look presentable. They're related to some governing class line or something in some social club, what have you, and they're very, very disgraced. Then I see on the news people who look more like I looked before they started changing my looks, but you can still tell it's me at this point. They're being killed, right? In the prison system, we see the female who was from Syria. She looks more like she has black blood in her, Nigerian, in a certain way that is similar to me. And she was, I guess, her dead body or her body was paraded naked. And I guess they're blaming people who were malicious connected to the interim government over there in Syria, who are fighting against the pro-Assad sources. I guess there were Alawites, and they lived, these people were massacred there by the hundreds. They lived by Russian bases, and Russia was supporting Assad. So there's something there. Again, I'm not going to be super political in my videos, but when I see social issues, when you cross certain lines, you very much cross into the realm of the things that I talk about. I despise rape, and it also occurred on International Women's Day, though I'm not a big fan of the day. I don't think that females deserve recognition, the modern females. If we're recognizing females of old who actually stood firm for what's right, I can understand that. We recognize that females have trouble and struggles. I can understand that. But to recognize the females right now while they're shunning Christ is horrible. But that doesn't stop me from being disgusted at what has occurred over there in Syria. And I'm not taking sides in that war. And you see my official stance on Palestine. I'm basically not taking sides in Palestine, but it's impossible to miss that Israel is the aggressor and that people are using the government and their money to stifle dissent, and obviously that's horrible and I don't approve of it. But I try not to criticize Israel too much because it's not my central goal and I want to be distracted. I try not to criticize Trump too much. Again, it's not my central goal and I don't want to be distracted. I talk a lot about the Bible. I talk about romantic justice and martial arts. I talk about a lot of things that are more important than what governments are doing and their plans. My kingdom transcends this world. My kingdom is not of this world. However, it is very foolish to not talk about these social issues at the same time. And so these social issues go into the realm of morality and how people should conduct themselves. My short book about the Universal Martial Code, I think it's like 2 or 3 pages. It might just be 2 pages. And I have another book that's 4 or 5 pages that I consider my central book. And one of the pages, you can start on one page or another because both of them are such a great starting point for the book. It's basically like 4 books put together, 4 like pages put together that are like books in their own right. Short stories, not stories, a short book, if you will, a short explanation. And one of them starts with something to the effect of there's no truth outside of the martial art order, right? The way, the truth, and the life into the spirit of truth. Outside of the martial art order, there's a different spirit. And that should be pretty straightforward to a lot of you people. So it's also important to note that God is a warrior. So the message of God, the understanding of God exists in the martial art order, right? Hebrews and Afro-Asiatic language. So where does a samurai, for example, and someone like me, where do they agree? Well, they agree on a concept, but the application is in disagreement, right? We disagree on what the order is, one could argue. But we agree that someone should be able to die, someone should be ready to die as a warrior for an order that they consider divine. But obviously I've been proven right and they've been proven wrong, no offense to anybody. The divine order is the Royal African Falcon Martial Art Order, not the Samurai Order, not the Emperor of Japan, what have you. Again, no offense to anybody. I have to clarify these things. I believe in putting a lamp on its stand, and that means elevating it above other people who are trying to light lights, other groups, other ideas. Not everyone believes this. Some people believe they should be diplomatic to other religions and philosophies. I don't. I believe that, and I know for sure that universal pinpoint and moral precision is superior, and their inability and their hesitation to debate me on this has overkilled that I'm right and they're wrong. So when we think about what is meant by my sheep know me by my voice, and they respond, and I give them life, and things like this, right? It's in the book of John. Well, what is meant by this? Well, first of all, a craftsman and a shepherd and a scribe and things like this and a mere politician, they're not the same as a great warrior. Donald Trump himself, with all of his fans, said that Christ is greater than him. In Revelation 19 is perhaps the most important act of Christ, right? The heavenly warrior defeats the beast. He's described as the heavenly warrior. Exodus 15:3. Moses describes God as a warrior. So when people try to depict Moses as a magician, no, Moses was actually based on a warrior, and the miracles are figurative. He's not a magician waving his magic wand, literally splitting the Red Sea. He's a warrior. And because the people in Greece and Rome and nations all over the world are foreign to the Royal African Falcon Martial Art Order, they encoded it in the Bible in places like Amos 9:7, where it says, "Are you not the same as the Cushites unto me, O children of Israel?" Where they're playing it like a magic spell, right? The Magi who went to see Christ. They're called Magi, at least in some translations. It might be all of them. I'm not sure at this point. I can look into it, but it's not that important. The fact is, in some of them, that's how they're referred to. As Magi. Mages. Sages, mages, scribes, the people who live a fantasy. It's like they're playing Barbie dolls or something. I don't like insulting people for, you might say no reason, but this is actually for a reason, right? There's people who are lost in the witchcraft, right? The snake has been defined as crafty, witchcraft, a craftsman. Isaiah talks about mere craftsmen taking their stands. It's there in the Bible, and it's subtle-ish that there's craftsmen trying to cheat the Royal African Falcon Martial Art Order. And there seems to be an attempt. There's a lot of things that the Bible is attempting to do at once. And one of those things is trying to, maintain the evil orders of the world. But there also seems to be an attempt to try to reason with the most insightful of people who read the Bible, which is a very small few, right? Narrowest the way to life. To get them to look at things in terms of fruit. You know them by their fruit, their works, their deeds, not their flesh. To look at them in terms of martial art greatness. We see Isaiah 30. We'll just start with verse 30. I've read this scripture many times in my videos. It's very key here. The Lord will cause people to hear his majestic voice and will make them see his arm coming down with raging anger and consuming fire, with cloudburst, thunderstorm, and hail. So is the idea of God speaking like a human, which is not what it's saying, mind you. Is that idea greater than the actions of God coming down with raging anger and consuming fire, with cloudburst, thunderstorm, and hail? These things are figurative. It refers to the essence of a morally precise martial arts strike. It's a marshaling force. It's a supernatural kind of and natural force of moral outrage, force of righteous punishment. The voice of the Lord will shatter Assyria. With his rod he will strike them down. Every stroke the Lord lays on them with his punishing club will be to the music of timbrels and harps as he fights them in battle with the blows of his arm. Now you see these horrible people. Some of these people are very racist, very nasty homosexuals, very bad people. You see these arrogant corporate people, these people in churches with their little plays and theater and shows, very immature, very bad people, horrible, disgusting people. And they got together and said, mess up his voice. Keep him from doing martial arts. Okay, don't you see that God despises people on their side of the line? These are people who persecuted the most righteous person ever, who's not even going to have any children, mind you. Not any literal children in this world. They persecuted him, trying to look better than him for no reason. I live in unincorporated Morgan Hill in a small town of like 40,000 people. But I live in the unincorporated part in the hills. And these people are so petty, while they're suppressing my videos, so unbelievably disgusting, that they said change his voice. And they want people to pretend that they're chosen. Horrible people. Their spirit is Luciferian, it's clear. All the churches, Luciferian, clearly evil, clear as day. Churches, mosques, synagogues, they're lying about God. So the top martial artist, his loyal followers, know his actions, and they obey God. They mean they're willing to die at the drop of a hat. And those who are mere Luciferian shepherd worms, and they're despicable followers, they follow these Luciferian dogs. There's no other way to look at it. And for those of you who say, well, that's rude. More rude than persecuting the most righteous person to ever live, mocking God by changing his voice? You might say, well, why are you making videos? Well, if you're an idiot, you might say that. But if you're smart, you know. They made it so I sound like a damn chipmunk. I'm to deliver the message and keep my moral repetition. And some of us, historically on this planet, are mature enough to look at this scene and say he's right. And some people will say some sissy, worm, cartoon-like punk stuff. Some craftsman, little choir boy who's turned out, type of sissy, whiny, racist, homosexual in San Francisco, kind of tech crowd, worm, geek, dweeb type of nonsense. But some of us who lived on this planet throughout the years are man enough to not take the bitch side of the debate.